Morning again. We have just seen the first part of Unit 4, that's on water quality and quantity assessment. Today we'll be looking at the water conservation measures, water harvesting structures, and reduction of water loss. Basically, we should be covering up the major portion of water conservation principles and techniques. So we'll be looking at the main principle behind water conservation and what are the basic techniques that we can apply at our level to conserve water and to maximize the optimum utilization of water resources. These are the learning outcomes. Towards the end of the lecture, you should be able to list down the basic principle and techniques behind to conserve water. What are the water conservation measures? What are water conservation structures? And what are those techniques to reduce water losses? When we are talking about water conservation, we are talking about three things. The first one is we are talking about the policy, strategy, and the activities that we can apply. So policy meaning what are the policies that are behind water conservation? What are those strategies, those plans that are used to address the policies and activities? What are those ground action and ground reality activities or tasks that are done in order to achieve strategies intend to achieve policies? So basically we'll be looking at how to ensure that policy strategies and activities are carried out in order to have the water resource sustainable for future human demand. Second one is when you're looking at water conservation, we should know that population is one very important factor that affects water conservation. Second one is the household size. The more the members in the household, the higher amount of water that's being used by that household. And another thing is growth and affluence of that the population. Affluence meaning how wealthy, how high the living standards of the population is, and that again depends on and water usage again depends on the affluence of the population. The higher the living standard of the population, the higher the water demand actually. So and again may not be true in all the cases, but generally speaking, the higher the living standard, the higher the water requirement. But again, the higher the living standard, again the better quality of water saving equipments and water saving technologies will be there. Again, less water usage. So again, affluence really play a great role in conservation of water. Thirdly, there are lots of factors that really affect the water allocation, water utilization, and one of these important factors is the climate change. You should be able to see that these days water sources like springs are drying up. It's mainly because of the climate change. Sometimes you do not you get erratic distribution of rainfall. You get erratic distribution of water resources like rainfall, precipitation, and all. So that's again being affected by climate change, and these are thought to affect more on the manufacturing and agriculture irrigation systems. Let us look at the principles of water conservation. We saw in our learning outcomes that one of the learning outcome that you should be having is the principle. So when we're looking at the principles of water conservation, there are lots of principles around the globe, but the main paradigm or the main essence of the water conservation is around these 3 points. The first principle looks at ensuring the availability or the sustainability of the water resources. we need to conserve water in order for our future generations to also use the same amount of water resources that we have been using. We look at the energy conservation. Water conservation techniques and measures should not only reduce the water consumption and water usage, and also reduce the loss of water, but also it has to help in the conservation of energy. The third one is water conservation should always look at the conservation of habitat, because as we know that we have lots of flora and fauna diversity around the world, which depends upon a good source of water. So if you do not have a good source of water, then again we destroy their habitat. The first one is white-bellied heron. The second one is river cormorant. Let's just talk what are two lines on white-bellied heron. White-bellied heron depends on the fishes in the river, and its main source of food is the fish in freshwater river systems. So it is said to catch around 2 to 3 fishes in natural environment. It is said to around catch 2 to 3 fishes in an hour to survive itself. But now, due to human settlement, due to disturbances, and due to habitat defragmentation, and specifically mainly due to deforestation, white-bellied heron, they are not able to catch the record amount of fish that they need to feed themselves. They need to feed their juveniles, and that's what is creating white-bellied heron's population to go down. So the count is between 28 to 30 or 33. So the count is very less. It's one of the critically endangered birds. Again, we just looked at the principle. There are 3 principles. One is to it has to ensure the water availability for future generation. That's talking about the sustainability. Second one is it should look at the conservation of energy, and the third one is that it should look at again the conservation of habitat. These principles are being supported by different techniques and strategy, which again are aiming mainly at the reduction of water loss, use and waste of resources. Whatever activity that we are doing or carrying out in relation to water conservation should always look at reduction of water loss, reduction of water use, and reduction of waste of the water resources. Second one is whatever conservation activity that we are doing or carrying out, you should always look at to minimize the damage or to avoid the damage to water quality as well as water quantity. And thirdly, to the brighter side, if we have fulfilled the key activities number 1 and 2, we should always look at improving the water management practices that reduce and enhance the beneficial use of water. So, for example, if the people have reduced the water loss, use and waste of water, yes, they have done it. If they have avoided damaging water quality, the third one, improving water management practices, can be done now from addition of harvesting of rainwater on the rooftops or on the container vessels like this ones. So these are different techniques and strategies that we can use. The techniques and strategies can be taken into different levels. One at the household level, one at the household level meaning the individual level, one at the social level or the community level, one at the commercial level, one at the agricultural level, and so on and so on. So let us look at the household applications. At our individual level, what can we do in order to minimize the water loss, minimize water use, and wasting the water resources? We can install a few things like low flow shower heads, meaning uh, shower when we are using when we are installing a shower head, those shower heads should not be consuming more energy, and that should be in turn give more water dispersion, more water droplets. So those kind of energy conserving shower heads can be installed at our homes. uh, you will be getting clear on low flow shower heads when we are dealing with the faucet aerators, so in a while. Then we can have low flow flush toilets. There are wide ranges of toilet flushes. So those toilet flushes which has the lower quantity of toilet flushes, but high efficiency can be installed. Again, dual flush toilets can be installed, meaning uh, we have got two kinds of button over here. For example, one is for half flush and one is for full flush. So if you feel that you need to use a small quantity of water for flushing the toilets, then you can use half one. But if you feel that you require more, then you can use full flush. But instead of that one, what we find in most of the conventional housing structures is that we find only single flush toilets. So the studies have found out that if you install dual flush toilets like that contains half flush and full flush, you can at least save around 68% of water loss. And the last one is faucet aerators, meaning these water taps, these shower heads, or any tap heads should have some kind of minute holes in that, minute hole to aerate, so that a minute particle of water comes out of that tap or faucet, so that it increases the wetness of the water, as well as it decreases the splashing effect that's been given by the water on the basin, which in turn increases the loss of water. So faucet aerators can do two things, or shower heads also can do two things. One is to supply water in a very small droplets that can increase the wetting effect with even a small droplets of water. Second one is that when it's splashing on the basin or when it's splashing on the floor, it's not wasting more amount of water, so splashing effect is being minimized. So that's something that we can use at a household level. We can also use raw water for flushing. So if you feel that your gray water system that's just been coming out from washing of clothes through washing machine, or just from washing of clothes, washing of dishes, and washing of vegetables and all, that can be used for flushing the toilets. And it's again water like if we are residing near sea water or ocean, we can always use seawater or non-purified water to be used for flushing the toilets, because flushing of toilets requires lots of water, and it's one of the area where water loss is quite high. We can also have wastewater reuse and recycling system, whereby, like I just said, gray water that comes from washing of dishes, washing of vegetables, cloth washing, laundry washing, can actually be used for flushing of toilets, and if possible for watering gardens and outdoor lawns. Recycling of wastewater, this gray water or some wastewater can be purified and treated through treatment plants and can be reused. So this kind of things can be done at household level. Rainwater harvesting, if you have buckets, or if you have a syntax or a huge container, you can always keep near the gutter of your CJ sheet, or near the gutter of CJ sheet of the roof, so that when rain falls, the the rain is not being wasted, but you collect the rain. Or if you are staying in a hostel, you can always look at this possibility to harvest rainwater. Harvesting rainwater, we have separate unit, one whole unit on how to harvest rainwater. We'll be looking at that unit again. But just know that at household level, you can always use rainwater to have maximum utilization of water, so that you do not waste fresh water that's scarce. High efficiency clothes washer, that means washing machine that requires less amount of water. Then again, if we have irrigation systems, then we can always install weather-based irrigation controllers, meaning we always have to give our water to the farms and irrigation fields. If you are supplying water every time, then even if the rain falls, if you are supplying the water, but weather-based irrigation controllers, what they can do is they can sense when it is raining, and when it's raining, it's not going to give the water. But again, when it's so sunny, when the temperature is quite high, when it's getting really dry, it can also sense the temperature and dryness, and it can also irrigate the garden or irrigate the field. So that kind of weather-based irrigation controllers can be installed in our fields and backyards.